Hello, welcome back. I have 4 Patriotic Red, White, and Blue Dollar Tree DIYs. Mostly Dollar Tree. I think I have like one item that isn't from the Dollar Tree, but they're a Dollar Tree alternative. I've got coasters, I've got decorative blocks with their stand, I've got a wreath and a cute star sign. So make sure you stay tuned all the way up to the end to see all 4 of those. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Faith, and you're watching Willoughby DIY. Alright, so first up today are these cute little patriotic coasters, and they're made using mostly Dollar Tree supplies, like this rub-on transfer, which is super cool. And I did go to Walmart and get these wood rounds. It's like a 6-pack for under $2. I know, it's supposed to be Dollar Tree, but you can use tumbling tower blocks to make your own coasters, or use those square wooden planks that the Dollar Tree sells, and those will work perfectly fine as coasters. So we're just going to take some red paint, and this is Red Flamenco by Apple Barrel, and I'm just going to water it down a bit to make sort of a paint stain. And I'm going to give 1 full coat to the face and the edges of 2 of these wood rounds, and before it dries, I'm going to wipe off the excess so you can see that beautiful wood grain. And for the other 2, I'm going to use True Blue by Folkart and do the same technique. When they're all dry, I'm going to take this beautiful stencil that I also got at the Dollar Tree and some Wicker white paint by Folkart, and we're going to put a simple star on each of the blue ones. Yeah, I got a little paint there. It's all good. I just dip my finger in water, rub it off, and it's mostly alright. You could definitely touch that up with some more stain if you needed to. And then just create some lines with masking tape, and using that same white paint, I'm going to add some stripes to the red ones. And once they're all dry, I'm going to pick out which of these transfers I want for each of my coasters. Now this Statue of Liberty one was a bit tough because it had like a whole background of like a flag and all that, so I had to cut around all of it. But I was happy I did it because it looks amazing. And then we're just going to place them on the coasters that we want them on and transfer it to it. And they're really easy to transfer. The stuff rubs off pretty easy. And then taking this self-adhesive cork sheet from the Dollar Tree, we're going to add that to the bottom of all 4 of our coasters. And I just trimmed it up using an X-Acto knife. And we're going to add 1 nice layer of Mod Podge to the fronts of each of these coasters and let them dry before we take 2 strands of the Dollar Tree Jute twine, bind the ends together so that they stay nice and neat together, and then we're going to add that to the edge of our coasters. Yep, so just a tiny dot of hot glue. Place down those ends you stuck together, and then we're going to glue it around to make a nice edging for each of our coasters. You just want to add your hot glue in a nice thin line, a couple inches at a time, so it doesn't dry up too quick on you. And then we're just going to take those 2 strands and lay them on top of the glue, making sure to keep them nice and tight together, so it's just one cohesive piece all the way around. And once you get to the end, we're just going to glue that down, snip off the excess, and just smooth out that little frayed bit with some more hot glue. Hit it with some flame to get rid of those scraggly bits of jute, and you're all done. Project today are these awesome USA blocks. You're going to need 3 of the large woodcraft cubes from the Dollar Tree, 4 of the small wood cubes, 2 12-inch dowel rods, and one of the rectangular wood planks, all from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to paint, after I remove all the labeling, I'm going to paint each of these large cubes with my linen white Rust-Oleum chalked paint. You can use regular white paint if you wanted, but I don't have a whole lot, so I use my chalk paint. Just give it one thin coat. If you can see wood through it, it's totally fine. It's just a base for us to work off of. And while that paint's drying on the cubes, we're going to go ahead and stain the rest of those wood pieces. And I'm using the Minwax wood stain in dark walnut, and I'm just applying a thin layer onto each of the wood pieces. I'm going to apply it to that rectangular plank. This one I got from Walmart, but the Dollar Tree sells them as well, so keep a lookout for those. And then 2 of these 12-inch wooden dowels from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to stain the ends of them as well. And then all 4 of your little wood cubes. And these we're going to use as feet for this little stand we're going to make for our USA blocks. And that's what all of these pieces are for. In case I didn't mention that, they're to create a cute stand for those blocks. Now back to our blocks. They're all dry, so we're going to take this red paint, the red Flamenco from Apple Barrel, and we're going to give a coat. I was going for like a dry brush on all of the sides of the cube. I was a little heavy-handed in places, but hey, it happens. And then we're going to use the True Blue by Folkart on the other one, and I left one white because, you know, red, white, blue. And then I took some Wicker white by Folkart and just sort of applied it in an actual dry brushing technique to give it a bit more of a distressed look on the red and the blue one. Once that's all dry, I took this Dollar Tree metallic gold marker, found the side I liked the most, and on the red one, I added a U to it. Just super simple, didn't sketch it out or anything, just free-handed. White one gets an S. I think you see where I'm going with this. So the blue one's definitely going to get an A. And because it had all these straight lines, I had to sit it down and do it. It was being a pain. And directly on the opposite side of the letters, so as soon as you turn it around to the back side, I'm going to write 3 different words. On the red one, we've got life. The white one, we've got liberty. You know, the blue one's going to have happiness. But this was super easy too, and I just used that same marker and just free-handed it with my handwriting. It's not perfect, but I kind of like how it's a little, you know, messy in a way. I actually wrote it out pretty well. I was pretty proud of myself, actually. But like I said, blue gets happiness. And then we're going to take a black Sharpie and we're going to outline all the letters and the words. And I did have a bit of trouble with this. My marker it's a brand new marker, but it kept wanting to act like it had no ink. So I had to sort of like set it down and let it rest for a bit. I think it was getting paint on it. But once that's all done, we can create our little stand for it. And I'm just going to take both of those dowels, line them up on the short side of our plank, mark it, cut the pieces off, and then those small pieces we cut off are going to hot glue right to the edge using a line of hot glue. Clean it up, and then I added all my blocks in for my other side. That way I knew that they would fit because it was a pretty tight squeeze. They're not right on the edge flush, the dowels aren't, so I had to add my blocks in to make sure before the hot glue dried. Then we're going to take our long pieces that we have left of our dowels, measure them up between each of the small rods, mark them, cut them out, and add them in using a line of hot glue, just like the side pieces. And I found the easiest way to do this is to sort of set your dowel down onto the plank and then sort of roll it into the glue. If that makes sense. And then you clean it up and we're gonna flip it over, add our 4 little cubes, just put a dot of hot glue on there, set it down flush with the edge if that's how you want it to sit, and that's it. But you could definitely use wooden beads or anything else you wanted for those little feet. I just like the cubes because, you know, cubes. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like. It helps my channel out so very much, and I'd really, really appreciate it. Plus, it lets me know what you guys like and what you don't like. So, if you like it, leave a like. It's a lot of likes. And if you're interested, I do have an Instagram account. You can go follow me there for sneak peeks, updates, and behind the scenes stuff. And if you want, I do have a Facebook group if you're a crafty DIYer type and want a group of like-minded people. I'd really like that group to grow some more and just have all of us in a nice, fun community to just kind of hang out and learn from each other. I think that'd be pretty awesome, don't you? Check my description box. I've got links down there to both my Instagram and that awesome Facebook group. Hope to see you there. Third project is this beautiful red, white, and blue wreath. And we're going to need this Dollar Tree burlap, a Dollar Tree home sign, which you can also find those similar ones at Michael's for like 99 cents. This foam wreath form, a patriotic scarf, this little sign, which is actually optional because all I needed was the stars, and your choice of red, white, and blue flowers. Now, first up, I'm just going to remove those little stars from that patriotic mason jar sign, and I'm going to set them to the side. I'm going to use both of them eventually, but for this wreath, I just wanted the sparkly red one. And then we're going to take our scarf, fold it in half long ways, and cut it straight down the middle so that we have two pieces. Now, that's probably not entirely necessary, but I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough. And it ended up working it out just fine, but hey, this is how I did it. Then we're going to fold that half piece of scarf in half again, hot glue the end onto what will eventually be the back of our wreath. And once that's nice and glued on there and the glue is set, you could start wrapping your wreath. And I just wrapped it in a spiral fashion around, trying to keep it covering the green part and all that. And I ended up fiddling with it quite a bit, honestly. I really should have just wrapped it close together and just did both pieces of the scarf. But, you know, I was being stubborn and didn't want to have so much glue on the back of it, you know. But it worked out in the end. So once you get to the other end, like you see all these gaps, don't worry, I fixed them later. I actually end up adding some dots of hot glue to keep them exactly where I want them later, but I don't have that on camera, so I will remind you later. Then we're just gonna glue the end onto the same spot where you started, trim off the excess, and then here I am just fiddling and fiddling, making sure everything's covered and then you can't see any of the foam wreath form in between. Like I said, I really should have just taken that other piece of scarf and wrapped it around too, but see, it works out. And after I add dots of hot glue later, it works out perfectly well. And then we're going to take that burlap ribbon, don't attach it, just wrap it around and see how much you need. Cut that off, and then I folded it a few times so that it would be a little easier to cut off the edges, because I'm going to make it look a bit frayed. So we're just going to cut off both edges and then start pulling out strands, the long strands, from the sides of our ribbon. And once you got enough pulled out to where you like it, you think it's frayed enough, you can trim it up a bit. To do that, I'm just gonna sort of roll it into a fold, like a small little roll like this. And I clamped it and then just trimmed it up because it was a bit uneven here and there. Some places it was super uneven, so it needed to be evened out so it would look super pretty. Then we're gonna attach it onto our wreath, and I'm gluing everything onto that same spot where I started the scarf so that all the glue mess is all in one place. So we're gonna get that attached, and then we're gonna wrap it around just like we did the scarf piece. Make sure you're leaving plenty of gaps so you can still see that nice patriotic scarf. And you could see I was still fiddling with that before I'd finally settled on adding hot glue dots to keep everything in place. When you get to the end, hot glue again and trim off the excess ribbon. Now that your wreath base is done, we can go into making all the decorative pieces. For that home sign, I just took my dark walnut stain and gave it a nice coat of stain. To get in between all the letters, I just dipped a paintbrush in some stain and painted it on there. Super simple. And you want to let that fully and completely dry before you move on to this part. I'm just taking that same gold metallic marker that I used earlier on the blocks, and I'm going to add in Of the Brave. And if you've been watching my videos on my channel, you know I like my templates, and all I do for those is I map out the area that I have to work in, do my measurements, and just play around with everything until I like the way it looks. Once I have that added, I'm just gonna give like a nice border, an outline around each of the letters in home, just to add more of that gold touch and make it more cohesive. Then I'm gonna do something I really shouldn't have done. Here in a little bit, after I add these rub-on transfers, I added Mod Podge. Oh, it was a mess. But I did take off these 6 little stars from my rub-on transfer page that I showed you at the beginning. And I'm just going to add those on either side of the Brave. And you see me using all sorts of tools to transfer these, but honestly, you can use your thumbnail. They transfer that easy. Once you got them added, you just peel off that paper. And I think they turned out pretty good. One of them's a little wonky, it's missing its point, but it's all right. And here I go adding the Mod Podge and making more work for myself and a huge mess. This marker doesn't like Mod Podge. It smears so bad. You can sort of see it on the letters. And yeah, see where I wrote Of the Brave is just pretty much non-existent. It's just a big smear of like gold and Mod Podge. So before it dried, I took a dry paper towel and just wiped off just that spot where it's supposed to say Of the Brave. Let the Mod Podge dry on a bit and then added Of the Brave back to the sign. And then sort of touched here and there on the letters with that marker. I didn't want to fully outline again, so I just sort of added a little detail marks, I guess. And I kind of like how that turned out. And I won't make you suffer through watching me make my horrible bow, but all I do is take some more of that burlap Dollar Tree ribbon, fold it in half, add in a bit of the jute burlap, lacy burlap ribbon, I don't know, that's what I call it. Wrapped it around, glued it to the burlap bow, cinched it in the middle, and glue it onto my wreath. And I hope all of that made sense. But once that's attached, I'm gonna take my pretty little sparkly red star and add that right into the middle of my bow. With hot glue, obviously. Everything is hot glue. Even adding this Home of the Brave sign. A lot of hot glue. So I just hot glue that right into the bottom portion of my wreath on both sides, and once that sort of dries and cures, I go to the back and reinforce with even more hot glue. For my flowers, I took 2 of the blue dahlias and 1 of these red burlap dahlias that I guess they had left over from fall last year. Lucky me. I'm going to clip that little green piece that is at the base of the flower off so it will lay flush onto the wreath, and then just hot glue those on there. And I started with my red one right in the center at the bottom there, making sure you could still see all of the parts on my sign. And then I'm going to add the blue dahlias on either side of that red dahlia. And once those are attached, I'm going to take 2 little ends of the baby's breath and add those sticking out the side of my blue dahlias. And all of these florals are from Dollar Tree. And then I created a little hanger using Dollar Tree wired jute twine. And I use a little too much. I recommend 2 to 3 inches. I probably use like 4 or 5 and end up having to fold my twist. But it's fine. I hot glue it on there and it's working just fine. Last but not least is this beautiful star sign. And you're going to need one of these Dollar Tree wooden stars. Remove your label and your jute hanger. And you need that little metal star that I pulled off the sign from the wreath. And we're going to take a ruler and a pencil and sort of make this wooden star look kind of like that small metal star by creating lines that go from the tip of the star to the little corner there where each point meets. And it should look a bit like this. And then we're going to need that Flamenco red and that true blue once again to add some beautiful red and blue to this star. So for every other section that I marked off, I'm going to do it red along with the edge, and then we're going to go in the true blue on the sections we missed. And take that down to the edge as well. And then I did what I should have done to begin with, and I added some stainable wood filler to that little hole where the hanger was at. I just took a little bit on my fingertip, shoved it in that little hole, and then I let it dry while I kept working, and it worked just fine. And then I thought it was looking boring, so I took the apple barrel pool blue and did sort of a dry brushing onto the blue sections. And I just took a piece of paper to protect my red from getting the blue on it and sort of dry brushed out from where the colors meet. And then I took the flag red and added some to the red sections going out from the center. And you can see it good here, but once it dries, it's barely noticeable. But I'm so glad I added it because it added a tiny bit of depth to it. Once that's all dry, we're going to add in our star, our metal star, right to the center, and make sure you're kind of lining those points up with where the colors meet. And then I just created a hanger using a small piece of jute twine and a craft stick on the back. And this was an afterthought, but I decided to add more rub-on transfers because I had tons left over. So I'm like, I'm going to add all of them. So I put freedom on there. I cut each letter out and made it into a curved shape. Added different words that were in different texts to the bottom, some fireworks and all that. And to sort of tone down that bright shininess of the gold transfer, just a layer of Mod Podge. And that's it. That's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. You guys are the absolute best for staying all the way until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave that like. And if you can't find anything to make those coasters with, I do happen to have a video on how to make coasters using tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. I'll link that, and you can check out the playlist it's in. They're all short, quick craft videos, all under 5 minutes, and pretty easy. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content. I make a video at least once a week, but every Monday, that's my upload day. So be here on Mondays for all my new videos. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and as always, have an amazing day, and I'll see you all next time.